Um, Ken, I'm going to let you take over. I've got the slide deck up, so you can just tell me to advance slides whenever you want. But yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, well, I definitely echo Reed's sentiments, right? Where it is a small world, and I think one of the beautiful things about being a founder in both the FI community and the greater kind of New York community is, you know, uh, people are so helpful, right? Our mentors have been incredibly helpful, right? And our founders, um, there are a lot of businesses that fail, but even with those failing businesses, right? They are able to help other people, and either in their cohort or in our broader ecosystem. So I think it is really meaningful to me, and I think you guys will find the same thing. Um, why don't we start with um, by our introducing our founders, our mentors. Oh, all right. Look, maybe we'll go
We
through
can
the.
do that. Go right here. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Dan was not able to be with us today, but we do have Dave Silverstein and AJ. AJ, you want to introduce yourself first, and then we'll go over to Dan.
You got put
You're
yourself on
muted.
mute, AJ.
Trying to protect everyone. Sorry. My name is AJ Kittner, and I run sales on the East Coast for LG Ads, which is part of a subdivision of LG TVs. I sell the ads on your TV, so I apologize for that. But yeah, I've been part of 11 startups, anywhere from a team of five to, the current team started at six, we're at 400. So you usually come in at growth stages to help take revenue models and turn it into a lot of money. And I think we hit about 600 million this past year on the current company. So it works.
Fantastic. I think one of the things I really enjoy about AJ is your experience both with kind of high touch sales models as well, or business development, as well as kind of a much more lower touch, more massive approach. Uh, so I think I'm looking forward to kind of your feedback with that, as well as everything else. All
Thanks.
right, Dave.
Excuse me. Hey, everybody. Dave Silverstein here. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Ned. We are a lending infrastructure business focused on the small to mid-cap lending market. Think of us as an end-to-end rail for all things cash flow lending, first point of intake and origination through portfolio management. Um, I am also a graduate of FI as of 3 years ago. We have grown. I would say we closed our seed financing maybe five or so months ago in like Q4 of 2024. So, I call ourselves like a pandemic baby. We were very scrappy and very much raised by wolves, and now we're finally growing. We're about a team of eight or so, and really becoming very much robust. And always glad to come back to the FI community. Prior to that, held a variety of different roles across public and private sectors, started my career in the US Senate, uh, dealt with all things financial services policy, and then was more of an operator of different types of digital businesses along the way.
Fantastic, Dave. I think one of the things our founders have always enjoyed about you when we get the chance for you to come back is the fact that you were here at one point in time, right? And to
Not too
see,
long ago.
yeah,
Not too,
yeah,
yeah.
and to see the arc of what you've done, right? I think it's there's a clear path, and it's not easy, but it is so rewarding to hear from somebody who's been successful and come through this. All right. All right. Um, all right, we have to move quickly because we've got a lot of things to accomplish this evening.
Can we just do quick the announcements here for
Yes.
so both of these should already be in your calendars, both optional sessions. We don't normally try to do them back to back like this, but we have the opportunity, and I think it's good. So one is the product development session. If you're, even if you're not sort of like ready to start developing now, it can be like helpful to sort of it's kind of like pre-development, like what sort of things should you like try to have in place. So I think it can be really helpful. Um, finally, normally during the session for, gosh, 5 years now, I think, almost every revenue session, we've brought in a woman called Carolyn Katz. She's wonderful. Um, she wasn't able to make it tonight, but she has a different, somewhat similar presentation, but it's very focused on how to bootstrap and why founders, even if they can raise VC, why bootstrapping is often a better option and something people should think of as a plan A as opposed to a plan C or D that they typically do. So I think it'll be a really valuable session. That one is going to be this coming Monday. So we have one on Friday, one on Monday. Again, both are optional, but would recommend trying to come to it. The bootstrapping one, we will also option, but if people want to and want to stick around, happy to do a pitch workshop. We're kind of moving into the time where you're about ready to do your pitching with a deck, 3 minutes. And so I'm happy to spend some time going through decks or trying to refine your 60-second pitch a little bit more, either or. Yeah, okay. Those are my two announcements. Unless, Ken, do you have anything else that I didn't get on here today?
No, I think that was great. I think the only thing I would add is we've had founders who've come through our program and they started with one company, and they ended up coming to our product develop or the workshop on how do you think about your technical part of your startup, and ended up using it in subsequent time. So I think would definitely encourage you guys to come to both of these optional sessions, even if you're not sure it's relevant for your startup right now. I think they both have fantastic information, and really give you a different way to think about these things. So fantastic. All right. With that, Dave, why don't we start with your presentation?
Sure. I put together some last minute slides. Let me load these up. Is that coming through?
It is, yes.
Got it. So I think I'm pinch hitting to talk about revenue. I will do my best. AJ, anybody else, please keep me honest. I'll try to talk through the lens of a founder that is past the 0 to 1, if not like 1.5 stage, and kind of moving towards a Series A. And I think, when we think about revenue, when we think about operating, you can kind of consider it through two frameworks. It's decisions you got to make in the immediate that affect the long term, right? So you kind of have to simultaneously wear two hats, because up front, the number one most important thing is getting your first contract, getting that first dollar, making sure the market knows that what you built is legitimate, differentiated, and the only way to do that, I don't care what anybody tells you, especially in this fundraising environment, the only way to prove that you are worth a damn is to have revenue. Otherwise, it's all conjecture. Traction today, unfortunately, in a high inflation, high interest rate fundraising environment gets you very little. And so you need to be able to prove that somebody is absolutely willing to pay for the technology and innovation that you're bringing to market. So there's a lot of decisions that you got to make up front at a time when you're probably so kind of early that you don't even know what the market bears. And so I'm 3 years in, and we're still making updates to our business model, still making updates to the way we price based off of market feedback and sensitivity. And I think just to set the stage, the whole purpose of kind of having a business to begin with, the idea of having a fiduciary responsibility to your investors, is to deliver, right? Deliver value back to them. And so the way you price and the way you drive revenue really will set the stage for how your business acts, right? How your business moves through the economy, how your business competes. And so there's, a multitude of different revenue models, which we'll go through. I'm just going to touch on about 6 of them. But I guess the questions that you might ask up front, right, around like, how am I going to generate my first dollar? Think about the decisions you make and whether those decisions will implicate the type of cash flow your business drives in the future. Will it be spiky? Will it be recurring? What your pricing and business model ultimately dictate, how solvent or how competitive you can remain. The other thing is, whether or not your current pricing or whether or not your business model allows you to easily acquire customers, right? The idea around a business model is as much around, driving revenue as it is like as a means of converting customers as easily as possible. You want a model that works in your favor. You want a model that is right for the market that you're in. And you want a model that's actually going to engender trust. So for instance, like a recurring SaaS model might be great for certain sectors, but it might be completely bunk for others, right? It might be transaction-based or tiered-based as an industry standard, depending on what your product is, depending on what the market requires. The other piece to note, and I hate this one the most, right? Like I absolutely loathe the fact that your model will dictate how the investor values you, right? And so the decision you make around how you price, how you generate revenue will ultimately dictate, how much your business is worth in the eyes of the investor market. And that is a separate conversation for a much later time altogether. But just know that, like, let's say the decision you make up front on what your business model might look like, a year and a half down the road, it's going to come back to bite you if it is not low friction, or if it doesn't allow you to move quickly, or if it creates friction in the market. And the last is, how scalable is it, right? Can you rinse and repeat this business model? Can you move quickly? Does it bog you down? And so, as you think about like ultimately generating value and yielding back value to your investors over time, these are kind of four pillars that dictate the decisions you might make along the way. And you're going to screw up, right? Like you are absolutely going to screw up. I started with a completely different business when I was in Founder Institute. We have pivoted. We've had 4 different pricing models. Like it is completely art in motion. And the goal is to not stop iterating, right? Like your pricing will always evolve over time. But I think like there is kind of that near-term framework. And then there's like this requirement of the founder to kind of drag and extend kind of like the x-axis out a year, 3 years, 5 years, and then 10 years. Okay. And so there's no prescriptive formula in terms of fundraising. I think my own personal experience in raising capital over the last 3 years is that it's completely situational. It's completely relationship driven. And there are very little rules. And anybody that says that there's like a playbook hasn't either invested or raised money in quite some time, given the nature of this economy. But that said, there is the outcomes of certain business model decisioning. There's an outcome that occurs at the year mark. There's an outcome that occurs at that 3-year mark, i.e. when you might be raising your seed. The 5-year mark, in and around when you might be raising your A if you're still, kicking. And there's 3 outcomes, right? Like, so the first outcome is, does the business model allow for you to thrive, right? If you are converting contracts, if you are generating dollars easily in your sleep, even, right? I call it mailbox money. If your business is able to deliver, recurring revenue with very little friction, very little manpower, very little application of human resources, that is a meaningful business model at the 1st-year mark, the 3rd-year mark, the 5th-year mark. And that's what you're always striving for. You want to be able to put $1 into the business, get 3, 4, 5, if not 10 or $100 out, right? And so, that is kind of the goalpost. If a year in, maybe you've grown a little bit, i.e. light growth, there's moderate movement of the business, or at the 3rd-year mark, the business model is allowing you to kind of grow, but not in an outsized fashion, i.e. a venture backable fashion, which we could talk about. Maybe you need to change things around. Maybe we need to talk to your customers and understand what their pricing sensitivity is. Maybe the product is not necessarily fit for the market and the model is not fit for the market either. And then there's kind of a survive outcome, right? Where at the first year mark, maybe you generated hundreds, thousands of dollars, maybe $100,000 in revenue. And that was great. You had proof of concept, but at the third year mark, you're kind of still in and around that level of revenue. There's something missing, right? There's either innovation missing or there's a model that is not supportive of the innovation that you're bringing to market. And so I always like to think, what are the outcomes ultimately of the decisions we make today around business models? I mean, and we've tried a lot, right? At Ned, we work in the financial services industry where depending on the particular part of FinServe or FinTech, it could be a recurring SaaS model. It could be a transaction-based model because of payments and volume-based pricing. It could be enterprise contracts, right, for larger sales that are very sticky. And so we've had to really bob and weave throughout this market because we do a little bit of a couple things, right? We're a platform for the middle market, so we are able to command SaaS revenue, but we also run payments for portfolio management to run loans. And so that's a transaction-based model. And so we actually have a duality that we're trying to figure out. And so there are hybrids that can come together over time. The other piece to consider, just some of the questions that you might want to ask yourself up front is, what are the margins of your business model, right? I go back to a dollar spent yields what, right? You're ultimately going to have to bring that business model to market. You're going to have to bring a product to market. You might have sellers. You might have customer success managers that are onboarding folks to technology, what have you. You might have folks that are ultimately, as you get bigger, maybe helping customers troubleshoot. What is the cost that ultimately drives the success of a business model, right? If you think $100 of revenue or $1,000 of revenue is going to require $80 or $800 to get there, you might have to rethink what the margin is on that particular model, right? I think as you think about building a venture backable business, right, where the requirement of your venture investors is to provide outsized returns, that's 100 to 1,000 time returns, unit economics come into play, okay? The other piece of it is just what are the people that it takes to deliver a business model? So right now we have 8 people on Team Ned today, and we're a seed stage business. I would say we probably underinvested in our team. It has been completely founder-led sales, from the get-go. We never really spent very much money, and that was a decision to stay in the game in a down economy. And ultimately, it allowed for us to raise money because we were able to prove that we could very efficiently, without very many people, bring a business to market, get customers to spend money with us, and deliver real value. And ultimately, when our venture investors took a look at the team, they're like, how did 3 or 4 people sell to middle market lenders? It was a real feat, and we were really proud of that. But that's all to say now I'm hiring sellers or I'm hiring, customer success managers. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness, is that going to eat into my margin? Is that okay for right now? What's the 3-year, 5-year mark going to look like? We'll be able to scale and then those margins can pan out. So that's all to say, this is a long game, right? Business modeling is constant. It's always simmering in the background. It is not something that you will set and forget. It is 100% the most important thing that you will do. And the objective, I think, for the stage you might be in right now, whether it's concept stage or you might have a proof of concept. I know that some people are at different stages in each FI cohort. I think the goal is less to make a decision, but rather to form a point of view. Right? How self-aware are you of your business that you're able to kind of take a step back and say, hey, I know my market pretty well, or I think I know my customer enough where I know the type of model that might work for them. I don't necessarily need to nail down pricing today, but maybe I'll work with my customer to figure out what their willingness to pay is, right? Maybe I'll kind of put a pin in certain decisions and try to get feedback from the market so I can land on a particular business model and iterate on that model over time. And for what it's worth, like our business model and pricing has been completely driven by customer feedback. 100%. I think more than ever, having customers that are going to provide you honest kind of feedback about not just your product, but like where you are positioned, if they can provide you feedback on what competitors price, like, they are your chief intel in where you fit, right, in your particular sector. And so use your customers to make sure you land at that good, better, best business model along the way. So, as you think about, the sector that you're in, right? As you think about the customer that you think you're serving, as you think about the value that you're bringing to that customer, the budget of that customer, and then you kind of ask some of the questions that we just described, right? Like, who are the people that it takes to generate, a dollar? Like, is there good unit economics that are at play? Is there an evolution of this model that will naturally occur over the coming years? Like, there are typically like what I would say like 6-ish to 10 frameworks that you could ladder that against when it comes to technology. Depending on your investor, like these are of varying degrees of valuable. I think, there's no right answer. I do not want to like say that there is one, right? I think the right answer is whatever allows for you to scale in the least friction, with the least friction and at the greatest speed. And so altogether, the first one, as we think about SaaS, right? Like if you are a SaaS business, fairly common subscription-based, monthly SaaS fees, like it's very predictable. Investors love it, but you kind of like run the risk of churn. Typically like subscription is really good for smaller to like small-ish customers, but not excellent enterprise or mid-cap customers where there's like higher ACV, account value. And so altogether, like if you move in this direction, just know that you're going to have a conversation with an investor around like net revenue retention. Then there's usage-based, right? If you're in the payment space or if you're in a volume-based sector where you are helping your customers to transact, or you're helping your customers to move value, move money, move data, right? Whatever that might be, typically a usage-based framework will be at play in some way. So in our sector, right, we help to run repayments. The industry standard is, basis points on every dollar that you move. It's a very difficult pricing model to combat, right? I want as much recurring and subscription revenue as I possibly get, but the reality of my business is that ultimately I'm going to have to charge for usage-based metrics. And that's good. It's still okay, because if you have big enough customers that do enough business with you, there's quite a bit of uncapped scale there, right? If you do it right. It is less predictable revenue. Like I've personally had some very spiky months. I will continue to have spiky months given that we're still early stage. But like ultimately, if you have usage-based metrics behind your model, the questions that you're going to get from an investor will likely be, show me a breakdown of revenue per customer year over year. I want to see how much volume they do with you. I want to see their usage. I want to see the actual per customer revenue, right? They want to see the devil in the details and kind of drill down deeper. The other is tiered. This is like, I would say, a amplification of a subscription model. So for instance, you might have a product that's good for small, medium, or big, small, medium, and then what I call big medium, not quite enterprise grade. So we actually have a tiered subscription model, right? We have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And it's typically, based off of different aspects of the platform that they're using, different modules that they might want to use or not use. But it allows for you to basically take a subscription framework and go after a wider swath of a sector with ease, right? It allows for you to kind of like scale up, flex up a little bit with your product, but also take care of smaller customers and not leave money on the table. Freemium to paid, the analogs here would be like a Figma or a Canva or even a Carta, right? If you've heard of these, think of these more, I mean, I wouldn't even call these like B2B. These are where B2B is like a small business using it. If you're serving small businesses as a technology company, you will be valued as a consumer business. Most likely, consumer and small business buying behavior is nearly identical, right? And so if you have a freemium framework, ultimately you just kind of let everybody use it. And then when they want to start using it more or start wanting to use different, more innovative features, that's when you can convert them into a transacted customer. And it's really good. Like this is a great way to build a mousetrap. If again, your sector allows for you to do this, you can get a lot of traction, a lot of users, a lot of market feedback. And then if your product is good enough, if your product is sticky enough, they're going to want to pay. Altogether, like this becomes more like an investor conversation around conversion rates, right? So if you have 100, 1,000, 100,000 users, they're going to say, all right, well, like how many of them ultimately transacted? Let's like focus on that conversion rate. And did that conversion rate get better year over year? And then there's enterprise contracts, which is like holy grail, very hard to get to. It is a feat that very few actually can claim they're good at. But this is indicative of like, the enterprise B2B SaaS world where let's say you are the Salesforces of the world, or you're kind of the core systems in the fintech space, that are behind the banks and allowing them to open accounts. And you're really able to bring bigger technology, right? Bigger technology that contemplates multifaceted workflows, that contemplates scale, that contemplates security, and you're able to go after really big fish, right? And these are the contracts that could be multi-million-dollar in nature. These might be government contracts that are massive and multi-year in nature. And this is the most sticky, the best, the most what I would call most efficient, but also the hardest to get, right? Like this is what every B2B SaaS company hopes to ultimately obtain. I would argue the vast majority of B2B SaaS companies, they kind of start with like the SMB space or like the small cap market space with the goal of going up the food chain, right? So right now with Ned, we're working with like tiny lenders or community banks. But I want to one day go after like Chase or TD and be a platform of record, for an area of that organization. We are so far from that. And so like getting to that point is difficult, but nonetheless, really attractive and extremely efficient. And then the last is a hybrid, right? Like invariably, your business model will be a combination of two of these in one way or at some point over a 5-year period. And then, I think just like as I round it down, I don't know how much time I have left, or you can just tell me to be quiet. I think as you consider business modeling now, right? Think about how predictable can the revenue be if it works, right? The more predictable, the better. As well, like, is a business model flexible, right? Can you change it, right? Are you locking yourself into something that ultimately is going to bring you down? I think like the other thing to consider as you start driving revenue, I think for those that are in the concept stage right now, it's hard to quantify, but the moment you make a first dollar, you're all of a sudden going to have a psychology shift, and you're going to start thinking about like, how efficiently am I making money, or how high velocity and recurring is that cash flow? And then last bigger piece is like, how do you bring that model to market? Like, who are the humans that can bring that business model to life? It is so rare that a business model can do the work for you. The goal is to get it to do the work for you at a given stage, but upfront right now, like this is hand-to-hand combat. Like 100%, you need to know how to knife fight, get out there in the market and start converting customers. And then from there, it's about optimizing. And then the last piece is like, and I wouldn't belabor the last one, right? But if you are in this to raise money and to grow and to be a venture backable business, which is not everybody, right? Like that is a choice. every decision you make right now will be absolutely scrutinized and skewered at the 1, 3, 5 year mark. And so just know that like the decisions you make now, stand by them, don't stand by them. You'll have to explain your reasoning. And ultimately, like the best conversations are when you tell an investor, you know what, like this is what we learned and here's why we changed. No investor ultimately expects you to nail it from the get-go. They're expecting you to fail. They're expecting you to kind of navigate the market and kind of form your business model over time. I literally just had an investor call today with like one of my board members about pricing. We're 3 years in. Like this is going to be an always on topic for you. So I will pause. I don't know if I went over. I'm sorry, Reed, but happy to go deeper.
I I think it was fantastic. Yeah, it was great. I don't we have time for maybe one or two questions from the audience. And uh if you guys have anything, um I also want to give AJ a chance to if
Yeah,
there are any.
AJ, by the way, slays the demons and brings in those enterprise contracts. So he's the one that I would just be like, AJ, what do you think, man? Like, I want like a lethal killer in the streets like AJ. Like he's getting the ultimate top of the food chain contracts that very few companies can actually convert. So like I am nothing in comparison to
You're in the
like who else
trenches,
is on.
man. You're in the
I am in the
trenches.
trenches, but like by we aspire to get to where ultimately like AJ's company is right now, where they're really serving kind of mid cap to top of the pyramid.
Yeah. I mean, it's, as you build your ramp and you build your pipeline, the strategy, you're living it, Dave, and the idea of you want the big whales, but you need to build the small ones to prove the middle ones and the middle ones to get to the big ones. And, if you get lucky and you get a big one, it changes your whole pipeline. It's a very fluid dynamic of you wish you could predict the future of who's going to sign up, how the market's going to be. So best planning you can do, and you just try to have as many conversations, but the good conversations, right? That's what you're doing. So that's but you're in the trenches. That's the deal. It's like you have to pivot and you have to move, and you almost have to have, like, I love it, the fungible pipeline. I love that word. It's such a good word.
I think from a business development standpoint, both of you guys really think of it in, well, you're at different places as you guys were saying, but your perspective has been incredibly valuable. And I think, our founders are in different places, and I think that's part of the reason we're excited to have both of you guys here tonight. With that,
I
why
have
don't we
one
go?
question.
Yes.
So, as someone who is in the process of trying to land some of those enterprise accounts, who has done the small to the medium and now trying to go from the medium to the big, but in very small quantities and trying to get the big quantities of those deals, could I set up a time to talk to both of you?
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll throw some
Fantastic.
hours on there now.
Fantastic.
Yeah, AJ has office hours, and Dave, I don't know if like you
Yeah, I'll
that
just
way
throw
or
my
just
I'm
email.
just gonna throw my calendar in there and anybody can kind of book it.
Perfect.
AJ doesn't show up for me in office hours.
I'll put it in there. Just give me to the end of the day. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. With that, why don't we go into our hot seat pitches? All right. I think our first pitcher is Jane.
Great. Hi, everyone. A little bit about me that relates to my product. I went to university and I, as an 18-year-old, totally made the wrong decision about what to major in. I graduated into a career that was a terrible fit. Took me about 5 years to finally get on a track I liked. That turned out to be higher education. And I really beat myself up about that. But as a higher education consultant, I realized it wasn't me. It's a university system that's broken. Universities have a career counselor to student ratio of one counselor to 3,000 students on campus. So most students at a university are not going to get any career advice at all. And universities promise students, hey, if you get a degree at my institution, you'll get a job that you like, but that's not the reality. So that's why I'm building Emma Advisor. She is an AI digital assistant for students, for undergraduates, so that every student from the minute they set on campus to the minute they graduate get the very best career advice so that they land a job they love after graduation.
Fantastic. All right. So, um, I think yeah, both of you guys are familiar with our rating system. So we'll do ratings in three, two, one, go. Let's see. We got a two and a one. All right. AJ, why don't you go first?
I relate. I went to school for engineering because that's what I was supposed to do. And I went out and interviewed in the market with people who'd hired me, and I was bored out of my mind. I knew I was going to fail. So I pivoted to startups. Who knew? But I think the idea of what you're going at is that same strategy is you just don't know. Where I concern about the business model is who pays for it, right? How do you scale it? Where are you going to find the money? I think it's a great idea and I think it's needed, but what you need in your pitch is to say, like, I have 17 universities that are currently using it with 87 kids logging in, or just throwing numbers out there. But that's the next step is you have to give your pitch and you have to give your revenue model.
Great, thanks.
I think the number one, if you have like 30 seconds to pitch a venture investor, the number one like leave behind mentally is like you want to tell them how massive this market is. Then that is when they walk away and they think about Emma Advisor, the idea that they should be left with is I must invest with it because it's this huge market that is completely underserved. And this person totally knows the customer that they're selling to. I think I did not necessarily hear like who the customer was, why you have unique market insight into that customer. I think I heard like your personal story, but not necessarily why you can sell essentially an enterprise, like a university system or a college. And I would just lead with that, right? Like it's so long as that there's no product yet, that doesn't matter, right? Like you're going after a big market failure. And so talk as much as you can about that future customer to get the point across that you're gonna, be the singular winner in the space at the end of the day.
Thank you.
Fantastic. All right. Daniel, you're up next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel Seberg. I'm the founder and CEO of Screen Genius. We're developing AI-powered intelligence to help the millions of us out here better discover and decide what to watch. And we do that by meeting people at places where they already make these decisions. So we're partnering with streamers, publishers, media companies, ad tech, hospitality, smart TV manufacturers. We're actually actively building a prototype for a major US streaming service. And our winning proposition is that our greater personalization and enhanced content discovery can boost their customer engagement and retention. I'm a former employee at big companies like Google, Moody's, CBS, and CNN. I've co-founded two other companies, and I've assembled a world-class team of engineers to solve this problem at scale and help people better connect to their stories. We're looking for B2B companies to test some of our assumptions, access to more data, and investment.
Right on time. All right. Ratings in three, two, one, go. Two and a two. All right. All right. Dave, why don't you go first this time?
Sure. I thought that there were some like really clear points that you hit, which were really good. I think I knew I knew what the outcome of the product was, which is important. It's hard to sometimes visualize like the AI of it all, but ultimately the outcome is really, really essential. I think you described the market. I think you also described a basic understanding as best you could, given the time limit. I think the delta that I was looking to have filled is like, who is buying this? Are you partnering with a streamer? Are they your customer and ultimately you're kind of like a barnacle on their ship? Is this a standalone that consumers buy? I think like I was wondering if this was B2B, B2C. And then I think like so long as we're going to pitch AI, right? And AI is Wild West, and it is very quickly becoming like in the pitch space, very commodity. I think it's really, really important to have discipline around like what the market is or like what the real product is, right? Are you the model? Are you building on the back of a model? I think if you're gonna go to market and like really ask for money, like investors are going to like dig in deep on like what part of the AI value chain you actually occupy. And that will dictate kind of how you get a response from them. But I think overall, the pieces were kind of there altogether.
Thanks.
AJ.
Yeah, I'm probably too close to it, so I have too many too many emotions to it. Good and bad, not towards your product, just towards the ecosystem. I mean, the average watch time on our TVs is 11 minutes right now. When people choose it, a year ago it was 6 minutes, so it keeps increasing exponentially. So your product is needed. What you're running into is the big manufacturers like the LGs and Samsungs, they want to solve it. And there's a big discrepancy between the content owners and the controllers of the TV. So someone like Roku is probably the closest to do it, and that's where you do it. So anyway, that's the grand scheme of thing. I get your business model. Where you're going to run into is I think you're going after the Rokus or the content owners. And if you go to Roku, that's one that mixes. But if you go to like to a Warner Media who owns the content, they don't own the distribution. They don't own the TV. So your model is gonna run into some issues, but you do have a pathway to get it. And I heard you have a business, you already have a client that's looking at it. So on the size of your product, it could be big with one or two partners. It's just you're going to run into a lot of legal issues of you're going to try knocking doors and they're going to try to either steal your IP or they're going to try to build it themselves, which I'm sure you've already run into and know that. So,
Yep. Thanks, AJ.
yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Our last hot seat pitch of the day is going to be Raul.
Hi everyone, my name is Rahul and my company Blaunt is a software as a service platform to help restaurant franchises grow their supply chain revenue and safeguard their brand image. So while working as a strategy consultant for a leading restaurant franchises, I discovered leaks in the rebate revenue. This was caused due to manual errors in estimating rebate, vendor loopholes due to contract complexities, non-compliant franchisee approaches, and so on. I kept seeing this pattern again and again that was costing the franchisor to lose millions that was hiding right in plain sight. I saw existing solutions doesn't cater to that specific problem of restaurant franchises, so I decided to launch Blaunt. What we do is we bring transparency and simplicity and leverage advanced technologies to track non-compliant franchisee purchases, accurately estimate the rebate accrued over time, and also provide insights to turn lost opportunities into new revenue streams. Thank you.
All right. Ratings in three. Oh, there we go. Ratings in 3, 2, 1, go. Is that a 4 or a 3? Oh, there are no 3s, Dave.
Wait, what is it 2? What is going on? What do we do?
It has to be either 2, 1, 2, 4, or 5. No 3s.
Oh, that's new. I haven't been on one of these in a while. I feel like,
Oh, come on, Dave.
I mean, come on. When I was pitching, I would get like 1s and 2s. Like I was like, oh, I didn't never get above a 1 or 2. So come on, I'm just going for a 3.
It's true, but you guys gave me as a gift.
I will.
No
I will.
threes allowed.
If I could, I would have given you a 3. I will keep it as a 2. Okay, how about that? I'm sorry.
Good. Okay.
Fantastic.
Sorry.
All right. AJ, why don't you go first this time?
Yeah, well, it sounds like you have a lot of depth in what you're doing. It comes through just from your level of discussing it. So I think you get to the point quicker of like, hey, this is the problem. This is how you're going to solve it. And then here's what my product will do, and then here's the savings and here's the potential for it. So you could even throw out things like an example of a large burger chain loses almost $2 trillion a year due to these XYZ products. Like, you got a short pitch, see the problem, show what you're trying to do, give an example of what you're going to solve. To Dave's point, like, you got to make it really big, and how you're going to solve it in a really simplistic way. And if they don't give you a check for 100 grand right then, they're going to lose out. Like, that's where it's at. So just more clarity around what you're trying to get to.
Dave.
I would agree generally with AJ. It was I like the way you framed your experience quickly in context to the problem quickly, and as a backdoor of showing an investor that it's a really big problem that you know quite a bit about. And so, like, I thought that was finessed really, really well, because ultimately in an early stage, and investors, they're investing in the person, and so they're really scanning for unique market insights, relevant experience, and like, you were able to kind of check those boxes. I also I simply thought that the concept itself and the part of the market was unique. And so, like, not knowing quite a bit about SMBs, because we serve a ton of SMBs, but not much about food and beverage. Like, I'm thinking there's something there. He knows what's going on. I feel like the unit economics could be there. This is checking quite a bit of boxes. Where it kind of fell short was when you talk about the product itself. And so I think there were like words used to kind of glaze over what the thing is, like technology powered systems. I forget the words you used. I was like, well, of course it's powered by advanced technologies. Like, you're building advanced technologies to bring advanced technologies to market. Like, let's talk about what those are. So I think, like, a really clear picture of what this is. Is it a platform? Is it a portal? Is it a marketplace? Is it a thing? Is it a plugin? Who's using it? And like, what the ultimate outcome is. Is it going to allow customers to move faster, save money, grow quicker? Like, I think just like that final piece of like what it is plus outcome, like that would round the quick pitch altogether.
Thank you. Very, very useful.
Fantastic. All right.
And I will say, yeah, Dave is now one of our, top founders, and he came out of a very strong cohort in general. But he
I
did
support
lots
the
of
I
ones and
support the
twos.
ones. I support the ones. I
Yes.
got ones left and right. If you're getting ones, that means you're onto something. It means the market doesn't understand you. Like,
I feel
blast
honored, Dave. Thank you so much.
I'm giving you a one because I believe in Emma Jane. Okay, ultimately, it's a big space. Let's just get
Your
there.
kids are
Okay?
going to be using her.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't wait to invest down the road. But just
Yeah, that's
know,
really
and
good.
I mean this sincerely, like, I never got beyond a one.
I
It's
definitely
awesome.
gave
All
you
right?
a one.
Totally. Yeah. Like, it was a horrendous pitch.
It was
It's
a
all
love
good.
one. I
I
wanted to
didn't
make
know what I
sure
was.
you.
I didn't know what I was. I didn't know what I was yet. But I support the ones. I am with you.
I remember your pitch deck with your friend who does like
Oh,
bicycle rides in the Central Park, right? Is that
oh
what
my
it was?
God. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
Remember that.
literally.
Okay. Sorry, Ken,
Fan-
back to you. I know we're trying to go quick because Dave has a hard stop at 8 o'clock to do another FI event, because that's what kind of massive
We have
support he
time.
is.
I like this. I'm hanging out. This is fun. This is great stuff.
Yeah.
All right. With that, why don't we go? So we've got our break. Thomas, we're good for the breakout rooms. We're good to go.
Yes.
All right. Fantastic. All right. Want to make sure we give you guys time to talk to your mentors inside the breakout rooms. And remember, in the breakout room, right, we're doing not the pitch, not the hot seat pitch, but the topical pitch. So the thing on uh, uh the revenue.
Oh yeah, here. Sorry, you want me to share my screen again and show that real quick?
I was going to try to.
Yeah. Here we go.
I brought it up, but my second monitor. I don't have it, so I'm.
The strategy presentation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So strategy presentation, mentors, you've seen this in an email. Founders should know this already. They are presenting 3 slides. One will be just a quick thing on what their business actually is. But like the 2 that we're looking for feedback on is 3 revenue models that they're considering, challenges that they anticipate with each model, and then how they'll actually go about it, like what the steps or assumptions are behind kind of like what they'd have to do to make each revenue model work. Looking for feedback from you, primarily, broad feedback is of course always helpful too, but specifically around, is there like a revenue model that you think for sure is the one that they should probably start with? That will be helpful. And also really push back on their assumptions. I think you all know our assumptions tend to be rosy, so push back on what they're coming out with. And yeah, that's it. And founders, I mean, so Dave, we've given you a few less founders in your room, so you should have time. But in case it goes a little bit long and you haven't gotten to everyone yet, you can slide one of them over to us. But I think it should be fine. You've got, I think, 5 people in your room, so.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay.
Take us
Thanks
off,
so much.
Thomas.
Okay, the rooms are opened.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Thomas.
Yeah, of
Right.
course. So should I keep the note keepers or should I remove them from the Zoom room?
Probably remove them and stop the recording. I forgot about
Okay.
that.
Why are there 3 of the same?